Welcome to Cooking Backstage, where we cook a meal with someone special from the music industry. This is episode 2. Joining us on this episode is Mike Celia from Toronto, Canada. Mike is a singer-songwriter with 2 albums. He is also a sought-after guitar player who has toured the world with many different bands. I was fortunate enough to meet Mike back in 2012 when we started working together. I was managing a band that Mike joined called A440. They were an a cappella band that toured heavily across Canada, the US, Germany, and even Korea. Mike was in A440 when they were on the hit TV show The Dragon's Den, and they got a deal. I think it might have been because of their manager. To top it all off, Mike is a chef, and he's cooked at some fantastic restaurants across Toronto. I want to thank everyone so far for their support. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe, hit that like button, and hit that bell button. Also, please check the description below for links on Mike Celia and other things we're talking about today. Lastly, I'd like to thank our neighbors, the Stronks, for supplying the fresh jalapenos from their garden. Alright, that's everything. Let's do this. Alright, welcome to Cooking Backstage. I'm here with my good buddy Mike Celia. What are we making today, man?
Gourmet grilled cheese sandwich.
Love it. Alright, I'm going to get behind the camera where I belong. Let this guy do the cooking, and we'll see how it turns out. Alright, man, why don't you walk us through the ingredients?
You got it. Alright, so we've got a dark rye over here, which will be one of the sandwiches we're going to make, and then we're going to switch it up a bit. We're going to do sort of like a multi-grain oat here. This is a... Where'd you pick this up, Mark?
I got it this morning at a local bakery. Flower Child, they call it.
Flower Child.
Not a sponsor or anything, but I love supporting the local business.
Yes. Alright, then we've got some room-tempered butter, sweet onion, jalapenos, some ham from the Blackforest by way of some local grocery store, I'm sure, some spinach, Kamado tomato, Old Cheddar, Swiss cheese. We've got this delicious amber grade A local maple syrup, some sambal, just good old chili paste, and last but not least, Dijon mustard. We're going to mix these later for a little dipping sauce.
Great. So this is your go-to COVID snack?
Yeah, I've been doing this a lot. It's pretty damn good.
How many times have you made it in the last 6 months?
Ooh, a couple dozen.
Okay, let's get to it, man.
Okay, I'm going to slice some bread. Good old-fashioned bread slicer.
Nice. This
beautiful fresh bread. I'm going to try to cut it probably not too thin. I want to get a little bit of nice, I like a little bit of a thicker slice. You can do whatever you want, or you can buy it pre-sliced, whatever's easiest for you, but we'll do a couple of these. And nice and smooth. Look how beautiful that bread is. Woo! Just going to take this end off. Oh yeah, look how nice and lush that is. Woo! Alright, what I'm doing right now, I'm just slicing some sweet onion through the mandolin here, just to keep nice, consistent, thin cuts. We won't be using too much. Alright, just slicing some jalapenos up here, nice and thin. I've got this, this is my murder knife. I'll keep slicing away with these tomatoes. I'll try to get them nice and thin. When you're cutting cherry tomatoes, you need a pretty sharp knife. This one is starting to get a bit dull, but you can really pick any tomato you want. It's tomato season, so have fun. Pick some fun ones. Heirloom tomatoes are always great, but there's no better time to eat tomatoes than right now. I am not going to be cheap on the butter, let me tell you.
I love it.
Yeah, this is the key. We want to get a really nice, delicious flavor, crisp on the outside, and butter is the magic weapon for said crisp.
You're a school chef, correct?
Yeah, I went to school and studied chef training some years ago, and stayed in it for some time, and then eventually music kept me busy enough.
Yeah, when did you go pro with music? How did that all happen?
That's a good question. It was kind of a bit of a transition. I was working in a restaurant part-time, and then switched kind of as gigs kept growing. As a matter of fact, it was probably A440 that was just busy enough that I didn't have to work anymore. I was making just enough money and having enough work. Hey guys, get out of here. Come on, we got some visitors. And yeah, I eventually left my cooking job at a restaurant. At that time it was a family-owned restaurant, and just basically went full-time music. And after A440, it just kept going. The opportunities kept coming. and then I started playing with some other bands, and that's where I'm at.
Go for it.
All right, so let's start building our grilled cheese. So obviously, butter side down. We've got this about medium-low heat. I'm gonna start stacking on some cheese. This is the Swiss. And we don't have to be too perfect about it. If some of the cheese falls off, it's gonna sort of melt into the griddle, and it's gonna bring this nice crispy sort of cooked cheese vibe.
And what's keeping you busy during COVID?
Making grilled cheese sandwiches. Yeah, no, I'll be honest. But no, I'm working on a record. That's the most exciting news coming out of COVID. I've been working on some demos, and we'll hopefully have a record out next year.
You've got a couple of solo records.
Yeah. I got two, sort of like an EP and a full-length record that kind of took a little bit of a rest on the shelf while I was touring with other bands. But now it's time to get back to making my own music.
Speaking of which, who have you been on the road with?
The last couple of years has been with Digging Roots and Tanika Charles. Been going to some really great places. We were in Australia a couple of years ago with Digging Roots. With Tanika, it's almost exclusively Europe, so 5 months a year I'm traveling across Europe in a van. And man, let me tell you, I love North America, I love Canada, but whew, something different about Europe. I mean, every show they make us a home-cooked meal, or they feed us somewhere really, really great, or take us to some amazing restaurant. Yeah.
Favorite restaurant in Toronto?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let's say Bar Isabel.
Where's that?
That's right by my house. It's right on College. It's sort of like a tapas style. Really, really nice. One of the better restaurants I've been to. Off the top of my head, I think that's an easy answer. Yeah.
And you're on the road, you're on the highway in a van. You got a choice where to stop. Where do you stop?
Ooh.
What's your go-to fast food restaurant?
Go-to fast food? I hate to say it, but McDonald's. It's probably gonna be McDonald's. Love me a Big Mac with extra sauce. That is a big soft spot. Gotta have that extra sauce.
It's hard to get good food on the road, isn't it?
Oh man, it's the worst. There's no way.
Your chef schooling, where did you do that?
I did that at Humber College, and it was a one-year program. Had a ton of fun. Learned a bunch, and yeah, I don't know what else to say about that.
So you're working on a new record. Who's involved? Who you're working with? Where are you doing it?
Working with Kevin Howley, who is formerly of Running Red Lights, and working with him and Scarlett. Both of them actually are helping a lot. Scarlett's been coming in on the writing, and we're working on something a little bit different. It's not going to be exactly like the previous records you've heard. A little more moody. This stuff might work better for film score, soundtrack. We'll see, but I'm excited. I'm excited to experiment.
What genre would you classify yourself as?
That's a good question. I'll have to think about that one as I slowly inch towards a launch. That's pretty important. But I would probably say, I guess singer-songwriter is still a genre, isn't it? It kind of fits. It's sort of that amalgamation of influences through, I guess, the filter that is me.
Okay, well the sandwiches are cooking. What's next, man?
Okay, we're gonna make a little bit of a dipping sauce. So, got a bit of Dijon mustard here. We'll get started with that. I'm just gonna put a little bit into a bowl. This is a nice grainy Dijon. It's probably my favorite. Nice little bit of crunch. One thing I like about mustard too, if you get a really good, I'm not a big fan of that classic yellow stuff. That's not really my thing. I know some people love that. That's more of like a hot dog, hamburger, backyard barbecue type of thing. All right, now we've got some chili paste. This is kind of the magic. I would say add this sort of to your taste. So I like it a bit hot, so I'm gonna kick it up with a couple of forks here. But we're not gonna worry too much about quantities, because at this point, eyeing it is kind of a great way to learn, and you can mess this up. You might make it a bit too spicy, so maybe you can mess it up. So just, you can always add more later. But here's a little maple syrup. This is gonna offset the heat and the bite from the mustard and give it a bit of sweetness. It's also a little bit of a Canadian vibe. And there's no trick to this. It's really, really simple. Just get all that stuff going together. And then we're gonna make, look, even the bees love it. Come on, are you kidding me? They know. These guys know. All right, fellas. Okay, so here we go. Sweet and spicy chili Dijon sauce. Nice and simple. Let's give you a little look there. Okay, so one thing I'm going to do with this grilled cheese, I'm just going to give it a little constant quarter turn here. We want to keep this sort of moving a bit, nice and even surface. And another thing I'm going to do, which I don't have the butter here, so I'll get it in a second. But let me just check underneath here right now where we're at. Oh yeah, we're just about there. Really, the key to this is a nice golden crisp. And so let's start flipping this over here. And that's the kind of golden crisp we're talking about. And we'll be looking for that crunch later when it comes to the experience. So nice and crunchy. We're gonna let these go for a little bit longer, but the key is you kind of don't want to just leave them too stationary. Every few minutes we're gonna sort of just keep it moving around just to keep that heat nice and even. Let's give it a little compress here. And don't worry if the cheese melts over here, because this right here, see this right here?
That's the gold?
That's the gold. That was a cracker. That was a cheese cracker. Woo! All right, enough of that. We'll let these go for another few minutes, and then we should be just about ready to start crunching our teeth into them. All right, what else?
What's your advice, someone breaking into the business as a singer-songwriter and as a side guy playing guitar for other bands?
Don't say no to anything. Do stuff. Try stuff out. Take chances. I mean, the one thing that I've learned more than anything is almost every time I get offered any sort of opportunity or a gig, and for whatever reason I say yes, and I'm sort of dreading it. Maybe. Sometimes it happens, right? You're leading up to a gig and you're thinking, man, I don't want to do this. I always push through it every single time. It has never failed. There's always some opportunity waiting for me that I didn't expect. So you gotta go, you gotta show up, you gotta keep rolling until you get to know enough about what you want, and then you can be a little tougher.
What's your process when you're writing?
Sometimes the song starts to kind of just develop in my hands. You know, I hear a couple chords and a little melody starts to come out, and then already I'm starting to feel some things, and then whatever those things are, I start putting into words. Sometimes the words don't make any sense, and then they get deleted. Sometimes they make a little bit of sense and they get edited.
Do you like to co-write? Do you encourage people to co-write?
Actually, yeah. I was pretty anti-co-write for a long time. For myself, not in a general sense, but I always felt like kind of selfish. I wanted to hold on to all my own lyrics and feel like I owned everything I did and all the songwriting. But I do encourage co-writing because everyone has so many great things to offer, and if not to make a greater song, just to make a greater songwriter. It really helps.
Regarding your guitar playing, do you still practice?
In terms of just keeping up, I'm just always playing. I'm just always finding reasons to play music, and that is practice. Somewhere in there I'm always challenging myself. So yeah, I do practice, but not always in the way that maybe one might think. Yeah.
So you mentioned you get a gig.
Yeah.
You have to learn a bunch of songs. You have a process. What is that process?
There was one time a few years ago I had to learn 50 cover songs for one gig, and so for a week I just let all those songs play in my ears, even if I didn't like them, just to slowly kind of log them in. And then after that I start kind of jamming along to them, and then I make notes, and then there's a funny thing that happens. I sort of jam to my notes to the songs over and over and over again until I get to the gig, and I don't really need my notes, but there's something that kind of registers like a pattern. When I look at my notes, I remember the whole song. It's a weird kind of brain trick that I have, so you might catch me sometimes sneaking notes on stage for a gig, but that's usually just to register the pattern. Once I see what my scribbles look like, I'm like, oh, I remember this whole song now. But yeah, that's roughly it.
What's your go-to guitar?
ES339, that's my fave. Let's get it over here. Just gonna flip it onto this cutting board. All right. And we're gonna give this, look at all these juices. That's the water from the tomato. That's kind of half that deal right there. We're just gonna get through here. Listen to this crunch. Okay. Grilled cheese with sweet and spicy mustard. A la Chef Mike.
All right, moment of truth.
Moment of truth. What you want to hear There's a nice crunch coming out of that first bite. So I'm just going to dip right in here. Let's hear this. Oh. All that cheese, the water from the tomato, a little bite from the onion, heat from the jalapeno. This is magic. Definitely give this a try. So easy. Have fun. Starting to come there though. Look at this now. I'm just letting it happen. So you can put this on the B-roll. Outtakes. Oops, I let that fall out. Hair and makeup was supposed to do something about that, but they didn't show up today.
See, Alex, the Mike. In 2012, when Alex, the Mike again. On top of it all, Mike, Alex.